What up, my wonderful humans? I'm MegaDudeXD, and we got some awesome BGM to talk about today. If you opened Google at any point during the past month or so, chances are you saw this. It's a game developed by Google called Doodle Champion Island Games, and it was made as a celebration of the Tokyo Olympics. You play as this calico cat named Lucky, who goes to a Japanese-inspired island to become the ultimate champion of 7 different sports. There are a lot of things that I like about this game. The 16-bit style, the sports themselves, the side quests, the characters, the Japanese culture references, but the music is something that definitely deserves some more attention. Now, I normally talk about Nintendo music on this channel, but I couldn't pass up this soundtrack because it was written by a certain Nintendo remixer that I've been following for several months now, and that person is Qumu Music. If you haven't heard of them, Qumu makes a lot of fun and upbeat electronic remixes of popular Nintendo themes. And as far as I'm concerned, I think this is the first time that they've made an entire original soundtrack and sound effects library for a video game. So that's kind of a big deal. So to celebrate this awesome achievement, we're gonna do a detailed music analysis of the Doodle Champion Island Games. Okay, so there's one word that we should first be familiar with when it comes to this soundtrack: leitmotif. A leitmotif is defined as a recurring theme in a piece of music associated with a particular person, idea, or situation. Leitmotifs are used everywhere in popular media, especially in movies and video games. And to give a few examples, what comes to your mind when you hear this? Assuming you don't live under a rock, you thought of Star Wars after hearing even just a few notes of these leitmotifs. More specifically, you probably thought of the title screen, Darth Vader, and the Cantina Band in that order. At some point, your brain formed a connection between the music and the visual because you heard the music every time the visual is on screen. Now, getting back to Doodle Champion Island, there are only a few different leitmotifs within the game, but they're used in a different way than what most other composers usually do. In the Star Wars example I showed earlier, John Williams wrote a completely different leitmotif for different characters or events. But in Doodle Champion Island, Qumu basically did the opposite. They wrote one main leitmotif, and almost every event in the game makes a reference to that leitmotif in its own way. So what does this main leitmotif sound like? At the start of the game, we see an anime-style cutscene of Lucky traveling to Champion Island, and that's where we hear the main leitmotif for the first time. Then the screen cuts to the game itself, and we hear the main leitmotif again as part of the overworld music. Okay, so a couple things I want to mention here. The first is more of a subtle difference, but did you notice the change of music style from the intro to the overworld? Just like the anime cutscene has HD graphics, while the overworld graphics are clearly based on 16-bit gaming, the music also changes from a modern sound to a retro sound. Great attention to detail if I say so myself. The next thing I have to say is that the melody can be divided into 2 essential phrases. Phrase 1 is the one we listened to earlier. And phrase 2 comes shortly after with a bigger melodic range. Remember what these 2 phrases sound like because the composer will quote either one of them in the sports we're going to listen to. Think you can identify them? Oh, hey there, Lucky. Wait, do you not know what the music sounds like already? Oh, yeah, good point. Then I guess we'll just get started. Let's start off easy with the table tennis theme. So it's pretty obvious that phrase 1 is being repeated a lot here, but you might have recognized that the melody has changed from a major sound to a minor sound. This subtle change helps to make the music sound more intense and fitting for the sport. I'd say this theme sounds the most similar to the main leitmotif since the melody just repeats phrase 1 every time with slight variations. Now, does that make this theme too repetitive? Personally, I don't think so, but it doesn't really matter in this case anyway. When you play the table tennis game, the volume of the music is turned down a bit so that your attention is drawn more to the sound effects. And it's probably better that the sound effects are louder because, well, just look at how many balls this guy throws at you. Up next is the marathon theme. Here we have yet another theme using phrase 1 in the minor key, but there are still some significant differences between this and the table tennis theme. For one, the marathon theme is set at a faster tempo, which that makes sense because, well, you know, it's a marathon and you're running fast, and so you play the music fast. Okay, yeah, you get it. Another difference is in the accompaniment. The harmonies play short punchy chords rather than long sustained chords, and we hear some fun driving rock beats from the drums and bass. The melody also changes to a completely new idea after playing phrase 1 for the first 12 bars. One more thing I want to point out is this instrument right here. That, my friends, is called an orchestra hit. This slightly out of tune and in-your-face sound is really reminiscent of 16-bit game music, and I just love how Qumu smothers it around all the sports themes. You'll hear it more for sure as we move along. Now let's listen to the archery theme. This is actually the first time where we hear variations of phrase 1 and phrase 2 in the same theme. But the melody still gives us a little more new material than the previous two themes. Here's what the melodic structure is like. There's phrase 1, something new, phrase 1 again, then the first chunk of phrase 2 with a new ending that leads us back to the beginning. And talking about the theme in general, it's now back in a major key like the original Leitmotif, but there's still a healthy amount of minor chords in there to maintain the intensity. Along with more orchestra hits, of course. There aren't as many this time, but they're still in there. Here we have the rugby theme. This time, the music starts off with a completely new melody instead of referencing the main leitmotif. The melody is pretty sparse at the beginning, but we do hear a lot of cool instruments that set a different vibe for this sport. First, we hear our good old orchestra hits, then they back off to reveal a square wave synth, and then we hear something that sounds like a dulcimer, I think? I don't know, you can hear string instruments similar to this in basically any fire level. But whatever it is, that's my favorite part of the theme. While the bass is chugging along on an F, the dulcimer synth fades in on a G flat. This creates a minor second, which is one of the most dissonant intervals there are. So those pitches, plus the sound of the instrument itself, I think are perfect for the setting of this sport. It's like the music is telling you, yo, check it out, we're playing rugby at the foot of a freaking volcano! Anyway, we do eventually hear part of the original leitmotif in this theme, and it's a slightly modified version of phrase 2. After 4 bars of that, the melody gives us something new before repeating back to the beginning. Next on the list is the climbing theme. Like the rugby theme, this one starts on a completely new musical idea. There's a more adventurous sound to this theme that I think fits extremely well for this sport. The chord progression throughout this theme follows a flat 6, flat 7, 1 pattern that is super common in adventure themes. After the new melody, we hear a quote of phrase 1 and... Is that the last chunk of phrase 2? I'm not sure on this one. Maybe let's try comparing them side by side. Okay, so the notes are definitely different, but... Oh, wait! The rhythms are exactly the same! Man, that was so clever. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I like to think it is because Qumu is already a genius. Now on to one of my personal favorites, the skateboarding theme. So as you can tell, it's literally impossible to not dance while listening to this theme. Oh man, now I'm sweaty. Oh, hold on, I need to take a breather. Okay, jokes aside, this particular theme uses new musical content almost exclusively, but it does reference the main leitmotif in a couple spots. It just took me a while to find them because they're pretty subtle, and I got too distracted by how catchy the music is. The first reference is a somewhat minor version of the last part of phrase 2. I say somewhat because sometimes the music sounds more like it's in the key of A minor, while at other times it sounds more like A major. The second reference is a subtle callback to the last part of phrase 1. The cool thing about this is that the pitches are exactly the same as they are in the original leitmotif, but they're put over accompaniment that's playing in A minor rather than C major. That's a cool little trick for you aspiring arrangers, by the way. It's called reharmonization. Finally, we're at the last sport, artistic swimming. But there's a ton of stuff that's way different about the music for this sport. For one, the music is longer and has an actual beginning and end, while all the other themes were looped over and over. Plus, there are 3 different locations where you can play this sport, and each location has a different tune. So that makes 3 more themes to talk about. Alright, here we go. First up is the dance style theme. This theme plays at the very first gate you come across in the tropical area. And let me just say, this is gonna knock your socks off. Holy crap, Qumu, you're really pulling out all your stops on this one. Like, how do you come up with licks like these? Qumu, you're a freaking legend. Alright, getting back to the theme now. I'm happy to report that the orchestra hits are back. Heck yeah! Aside from that, the reference to the main leitmotif is a little easier to notice this time. Phrase 1 is quoted towards the end of the theme, but it's modified in a way that we haven't heard before. The phrase starts in A minor, then immediately jumps up to C major to finish. As for the rest of the theme, the percussion is blazing fast, the synths are super punchy, the high piano notes add a nice little sparkle to the music. Everything in this theme is just incredibly fun to listen to. Next up is the rock style theme. The gate for this theme is sunken at first, and you can only unlock it by doing a side quest of finding these 3 turtle characters and bringing them together to resurrect the gate. And this theme is also super fun. The form is really similar to the dance style theme, with new musical material playing at the beginning and quotes of phrase 1 playing at the end. It also shares a similarity with the skateboarding theme in that this theme switches between the keys of C major and C minor. And with things like this crazy little run, you can tell that Qumu had a ton of fun with this theme. Oh, and there's more orchestra hits, of course. Can't forget about those. The last of the 3 artistic swimming themes is the karaoke style theme. Yeah, this one sounds the most different out of all the themes we've heard. This theme is accessed through one of the doors in the artistic swimming dojo. It feels more like a ballad with the slower tempo, the laid-back drums, and other smooth-sounding instruments like strings, soft trumpets, and electric piano. There's also that synthesized voice that sings along with the melody to make it, well, the karaoke theme. So with this dramatic change of genre, let's hear how the main leitmotif fits in this theme. Were you able to catch which phrase was played? Are you sure? You didn't hear any reference at all? Well, give this fine feline a trophy because you are correct! That's right, there is no reference whatsoever. You have now achieved the award of Amazing Oral Skills. Yep, this is the one and only theme that doesn't quote any part of the main leitmotif. Why? I don't know. Maybe it just sounded better to leave the main leitmotif out. But whatever the reason, it was still a nice change of pace to hear a more laid-back theme compared to all the other high-energy themes in the soundtrack. So now, after listening to all the sport themes and collecting all the champion scrolls, there's still one last bit of music that the game gives us before we finish. Oh, that was a curious little jingle. Sounds like something important. Now this is a reference to a different leitmotif that plays after you beat a champion and receive a scroll, after which we're led to this. And it all comes full circle. Both phrases of the main leitmotif are played one last time, but we also hear some reharmonization at the end that really drives the music home. Take a listen to this chord progression again. Doesn't that just make you feel warm and fuzzy inside? What a perfect way to wrap up the game. And that's it. That's my analysis of the highly underrated music from the Doodle Champion Island Games. And since you've made it this far in the video, I already think you're pretty cool. But if you want to be even more cool, here's what you can do. First, if you want to see more VGM content, then slap that subscribe bar and the notification bell next to it. Second, if you haven't played the Doodle Champion Island Games yet, head to the link in the description and try it out. It's pretty dang fun. And last, but certainly not least, go subscribe to Qumu right now. Go and listen to more of their music and tell them how great of a job they did on this soundtrack. I really enjoyed talking about this new game music, and I'm looking forward to doing more analysis videos like this in the future. And that's it for this video, so thanks a ton for watching, and thank you for existing. I'll see you next time. And Qumu, if you happen to be watching right now, I want to know how you got hired to write a soundtrack for freaking Google. Like, that opportunity doesn't just come to anyone. But seriously, you totally crushed it with the soundtrack. And the sound effects too, can't forget about those. My favorite is that synthesized cat meow that you hear when you get hit by a giant snowball in the climbing game. Anyway, can't wait to hear more awesome music from you in the future. Okay, that's it, bye.